thing that they just would like to say or say hi to everyone or welcome, we'd love to hear your wonderful voices. So you can do that while before I mute all of you. Does anybody have anything they would love to share? Yeah, oh, yeah, it's definitely the smile. There it is, Rudy. That's what Rudy said. It's definitely the smile. Rudy, you just became my favorite person
Question.
here in this workshop. All right.
I have a question.
Okay. Yes,
Can you
sir.
hear me?
Go right ahead.
Are you going to be at the PWA, the Pittsburgh Workforce, the Pennsylvania Workforce Development
You
Association
know
this
what?
year?
You know what? I don't think I'm going to be this year because I think they put some
Oh,
information out and I missed the deadline. We have been so busy. I'm telling you, this has been. As
right.
you would think that this pandemic would have slowed us down, it didn't slow us down. We are busier than I don't think I can ever recall a time in my company's history we've been this busy. But I think it's the nature of our work, the way we go about it, and then people know that for years we've been committed to this. So I'll talk with Carrie and see, maybe she can slide me in there somewhere, but I'm not sure. I think I even missed Naudup's thing this year. I don't know. And but I am speaking at a lot of different conferences that have been invited, state conferences and things of that nature, that invite us out to do some work, and so we'll kind of see what's happening. But I'm gonna give it another minute because I know we had quite a few people sign, and I'm just looking at the people just registering. It had about 10 people in the last minute just register, so I'm sure they'll be jumping on as well. So in the chat, come on in the chat feature, just type your name and where you're from, and we'll get started in just a few moments. I didn't do my music thing because I don't want to get us too hyped up. That'll take too long. I'll be
And
30 minutes. Yes,
Coach D, I don't think the NADA deadline has passed yet.
it
So
hasn't.
no, so if you're
Okay,
interested, hop
yeah.
on there.
Okay, yeah, I definitely will. I typically do, and I just, and sometimes they reach out to me. I'm very active with NADA,
Oh,
and
so
yeah, very, very, very active with them. We've done probably in the last 4 or 5 months somewhere around 7 or 8 different workshops for them. So
amazing.
yeah, so we are very actively involved with NADA, and
And
as you
we
know, but
appreciate you.
yeah, well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I love what I do. I tell people I have the dream job. I really do. I get a chance to interact with some amazing people. I'm looking at Jeanette Romaine here. That's on, and one of my favorite people over in Delaware, over at DCD in Chester County. And so it's just good to see you. Of course, Annie's here, and we got Rachel here hiding somewhere. I don't know where she went. She's she's in the backdrop somewhere helping me out. And I'm gonna get her up from behind that screen though, because she has some words of wisdom. And we got Chicago in the house. So let's do this because it is 2:35 and I know people are on time schedule. So I want to kind of go ahead and dive in, okay? If that's all right. And I want y'all to start by doing something in the chat feature. Just type, "Hey, Lauren, we got Lauren here too." Tell you, Jeanette, we got the team in here. I'm actually working with Jeanette and their team, and Lauren. We're doing some work on social equity, so it's good to see their team here. I love working with them. Great leadership group over there in Chester County. We're having a great time doing some work there. But in the chat feature, what does racial equity mean to you? I just would love to hear your perspectives when you hear racial, because people are trying to figure all this out. Diversity, equity, inclusion, they're hearing all these terminologies, but what does it mean to you when you hear racial equity? I'm going to give my perspective, yeah. Hey, I see you, Jeanette. There you go. Yeah. And just would love to get your perspective. And my hope today during this time period, and it'd be a nice kind of conclusion to Black History Month, is to talk about why the need for it, in particular in workforce development circles. All right. But this is not going to be just limited to workforce development. It's going to be across the board why we need to focus. And you're going to see something that most people aren't talking about, but I think I'm bringing a pretty unique spin. So one thing you're going to have to be is open-minded because we're going to be sharing some stuff that you have never heard this before, but you're going to hear it in a way that's going to be beneficial from a work perspective. And I just want you to be open to see this. And this is how I talk about this subject in a way that hopefully makes sense. And so with Black History Month coming to a conclusion, one thing that I always try to look at is that as a person of color, we live within that realm every day. It's just this, it's our life, it's our livelihood. We wake up or see ourselves every day. So, there's an aspect to this that we live in which is our reality on a day-to-day basis, and many of your clients and people that you serve as well. So hopefully today we're going to do something that people who know me and know the work that I do, I'm about trying to create precedents, set some sort of precedence. And my hope is that today, so please have a notepad, because I'm not just going to be lecturing, but I'll be sharing some things that you may want to write down that could be advantageous to you in the work that you're doing. So with that being said, I'm going to see if I can get this ball rolling here. Just 1 second. I got to get this. Just 1 second. We're having a problem with this PowerPoint slide. Let me go back and get it to where it should be. There we go. And we'll get ready to get started here in just a, whoop, nope, that's not it. All right. Okay, now I've lost you guys. Let me get you back up here. Okay. And Rachel's going to help with that. So, okay. All righty, here we go. And yep. So can y'all see that okay? Can y'all see it okay? Okay, I'm gonna put you on mute because you got a few folks that's having some wonderful phone calls. And I enjoy, hearing you, but I don't want to, I don't want to hear all your beeswax. So hold on a second. There you go. All right. So get ready to take some notes because you're gonna hear some stuff that's gonna be interesting. Can you see it okay now? Is it still okay? Because there's something, hold on a second, just 1 second. I am having a problem with this backdrop. Let me get this one thing out of the way. All right, just a second, please, because it's just something that just pops up and I got to get that down. There you go. That to pop down and get back here. All right. You got to love technology. It's always something. Okay, here we go. Boom. And I bet y'all can't see that one, can you? That one just went blank on us. Okay, let me stop the share again. All right, we're going to figure this out. Hang in there with me. Annie, just keep smiling so I can. So, I'm just trying to make it through this technology stuff. So keep smiling at me, Annie. That gives me motivation to keep going here. All right. And so let's try again. Okay. Yeah, it seems like the screen somehow got shorter. I don't know what happened. Let me go back. All right. All right. All right, there we go. All right, we're good. Give me 2 thumbs up, Annie. Are we good? Rudy, we're good. All right, good. All right, we're good. All right. So why the need for racial equity in workforce development circles? I just want to talk about this. This is a conversation, and I'm going to be sharing some things that's going to be a little bit different for some people. But I want you to hear this because I have a tendency to analyze things and go a little bit deeper in the analysis of it. So what I'm going to be sharing is kind of like, wow, coach, what a different perspective. All right. And also what I'm going to be sharing is not designed to minimize anyone's efforts. We've all contributed. But today, what I want us to focus on when I talk about racial equity is Black and brown people. Equity is a very broad term and diversity is a very broad term, but I just want to focus in on that slice of the pie. And there's a reason why I'm going to explain in just a few moments, but I've been committed to this kind of topic for a long time. Most of the work we've done over historically has been around cultural awareness. And so we've done a lot of work there. But in the last 2 or 3 years, we start focusing on equity. Because once I started getting an understanding of the power of equity, I realized as a nation, yes, I did use my hands because I'm a little bit animated. As a nation, we benefit when this is in place. And I know that's a immediate start off in a different perspective because we don't hear that too much. We don't hear it. But I'm here to tell you today, we benefit. And history has proven that. And my hope moving forward is that we can embrace this topic of racial equity in such a way that not only will the Black and brown races benefit, but our society as a whole is going to benefit. And I'm going to show you how it's already benefited. So I decided, I've written books, I do work with youth. So I got Believe in the Hype, 7 Keys to Motivating Students of Color. This is just my passion. And most recently, I got this book that I'm writing that's wearing me out because it's taken me a long time to write this book. But that is, equity is not a head issue, it's a heart issue. It's a term that I came up with because I realized this is important. Write this down because this is another leadership point. You can't force a person to change. You can't legislate a person to change. You can make them change through legislation, but the reality is in their hearts, if what they're thinking is still what they're thinking, then that's what they're going to be thinking. So what I realize is that with people, and in particular with our country today, we need to have conversations, man. Sometimes we're just not talking. You have a lot of people arguing, a lot of people fighting, a lot of people this and that, but where are the conversations? And most negotiation starts with conversation. So I'm writing this book because my goal is, we have this framework called the Equity 3M framework. I'm going to share a little bit about that later, is that we can start having more civil, real world conversations about this topic and how we as a nation benefit, okay? When we have when we embrace it. So when we talk about Black History Month and we're about to step on out of there, let's see how we can take this to the next level. Let's see how we can make this happen. Somebody give me a high five or a thumbs up. I just want to do one of those. I'm not going to do those all day long. Just got to get a few. Let's take it to the next level. And I'm even going to challenge you. As workforce development, let's be the organization let's be the entity that sets the bar for this. How about that? Let other people look at our industry and say, man, what they're doing in workforce development, that's the model. That's what I'm hoping. Now, some of y'all may say, man, he's just all amped up. No, I know, because I'm working. I have several customers on here now. We are working through this as we speak. This is not just conversation. We're doing this. And we're seeing momentum and movement in the right direction. Are we perfect? No, but we're seeing some things. So I want y'all to go to the chat feature real quick and type in, we're going to do this. Just say it just like that. We are going to do this. All right. Type it in there real quick. Come on. I want to see because I got about 35, 40 of y'all in here today. So type in, we're going to do this. This is our industry. No matter where you are, we are all in this workforce development space. So I may not work for your agency or your organization, but we're going to do this. We can make this happen. We can set the tone for our industry, which sets the tone for our country. And why is that important? So now let's get to the part. So I got y'all amped up so we can go into details. Because there's some stuff we got to look at. Black Americans are number one. We're number one in national incarcerations per capita. I just heard something on the news that this was so disheartening to me. All right. We're number one when it comes to per capita of people dying of COVID-19. We're number one per capita in high school dropouts. 300 years after being brought to this nation, we're still realizing first. And we get excited about it, the first this and the first that. But when I look at that, I said, my goodness, we've been here for 300 years. So it's nice to be excited, but man, it took a long time. You see, all right, once we get through and break through and start living certain lives as a race, and this is Black and brown, and this is not just Black and brown, there's other, socioeconomic factors as well that people have challenges like this, but we still do, there were promotional barriers. Like hard to get that next level, that next job, that next. And then here's one that I have, because we do a lot of this training, you find a lot of African Americans and other races that are considered more on the minority side, fear the addressing racial challenges because of potential backlash. So I don't say anything. I just live with it, you see? And so why does coach say, I know there's other areas of diversity. Why do we need to focus on this? Because we need to. I have a few customers where some of the people that we're working with, they say, well, coach, shouldn't we look at this and look at that? I said, no, we're looking at this. Don't even go there with me. No, you're not throwing everything else in the pie. No, this ain't no bowl of soup with a bunch of ingredients. We got one ingredient. And because we, as a nation, we got to get this right. We got to get this right. So racial equity is important because it's really going to open up doors of opportunity that didn't exist in the past. And that's my hope, that as an industry and as people, we start to realize this. And so I'm radical. Those of you know me who've ever worked with me, I'm radical. I don't think outside the box, I blow it up. Because if you think outside the box, that means the box still exists. Get rid of that doggone thing. All right. But I'm radical enough to believe that if we enhance our nation's focus on racial equity, we can paint a different picture of Black and brown, of the Black and brown race in our nation. What I'm saying is when you look at the news media, when you look at the press, when you look at the conversations, it's always, when this conversation happens around people of color, it's always from a position of a deficit. You know, underprivileged, minority, urban community, crime. And so when people hear that all the time, that becomes the paradigm. You got to hear what I'm saying. You know, because not everybody is in those categories, but the assumption will be that everybody is, because that's what you hear all the time. It's always in the media. It's always in the news. It's always, you know, those economically suppressed, depressed, you know, and then so people start to think that's who you are as a person. Now, there are people who fall into that category. Don't get me wrong. And many of them we serve and we want to help. But what I'm trying to say is our country has historically put everybody into that pot. You know, I was one time on a vacation and God, you know, God bless this young lady. She didn't know because she just going by what the narrative says. Young girl, 18 years old. And I was taking my kids, they were doing this thing where they were hang gliding. So they're like, two of my kids are like 922 miles up in the air on these parachutes. And I'm like holding my breath, you know. And this young lady on this boat that we were riding, she was with the guy, she was his assistant. She looks at me and she smiles. She was so sincere. And she said, "What part of the inner city of Philadelphia do you live in?" And I looked at her and I'm thinking, huh? I said, first of all, I don't live in Philadelphia. I don't live anywhere near it. And secondly, what makes you think I live in the inner city? And she said, "Oh, I thought you did." And I was okay with, I wasn't okay with that, but I understood what I was dealing with. This is a young lady that's heard this over so many times. That's her paradigm. And I said, "No, I actually live in the suburbs in Wilmington, outside of Wilmington, Delaware." She said, "Oh, really? I'm sorry." I said, "Okay, that's cool. I'm just gonna let you know. I don't live in the inner city. I used to when I was a little kid, but I don't now." And so I realized when people hear things over and over again, they normalize it. It becomes the norm. You know what I mean? Like my life has been changed because of, give yourselves a thumbs up, go to the emoji, because of workforce development. My mother was impacted back in the 70s. That changed my life because of a workforce development agency who helped her get her GED, that helped her land her first job, that moved us from the projects into our own town. We had like a townhouse that made me realize I wanted to go to college, get a degree, do something with my life. You guys are all that. I'm telling you, that's why this industry is so important. You see? And so now my son, this picture here, he just got accepted at Virginia Military Institute. He's been accepted at the Citadel. My daughter is a global scholar at American University, started a nonprofit to help orphans in Nairobi, Kenya, was just interviewed on the Kelly Clarkson show. And Misty Copeland joined her in tears. That's my daughter. I need to send you the clip to that. All right, my son last year graduated from Ringling College of Art and Design, the #2 art and animation school in the United States of America. Why am I saying that? That workforce development group back in the 70s looked at my mother from a position of an equitable position. If we help her, she can help the next generation, and she has, and you're sitting here listening to the next generation. That's why we got to understand we can shift the narrative and start to focus in on the potential, not what the masses say. That's important for our industry to think about that. You know, racial equity, from my perspective, is creating equal opportunities in career, business, and life for Black and brown people. And by doing this, our nation benefits. I'm going to show you in just a minute. Now, you're going to have to roll with me what I'm about to show you, because you're going to like, "Coach, wow, I didn't look at it like this," okay? But I think you're going to get something from hearing what I'm about to say. And our goal today is to open our eyes to the importance of this specific focus, not combined. Like a few of my customers, they want to throw a lot of different things in the pot. You know, "Coach, we just don't want to." I said, "No, right now, let's focus on this." Now, let me be clear. We do a lot of work, like, you know, DCD is on, and we do social equity. And I know workforce development, you got socioeconomic situations, people's financial situations. So we roll with that as well. But for the sake of today, I just want to talk about racial equity, because we do a lot of that, and it's so important to understand why that's important. But in workforce, I understand that social equity is as well because of your client base, because we've been all over just about every state, probably wherever you are, we've been in your state 3 or 4 times. And so we understand it, okay? So so racial equity changes things. So my children live a different life because of equity. people giving me a chance to maximize my potential, which in turn allowed them to. Somebody giving my mother a chance to maximize her potential. And as a result, she impacts me. All right. So racial equity is really important in the DEI mix, because a lot of what we want to see in our country is going to take place when this is embraced on a larger level. All right. So we got to understand how really powerful it is. So my hope, this is my hope, write this down. My hope is that the workforce development industry will take the lead. That's my hope. And now, you're like, Coach, what do you, that's my hope. I don't own this industry. I'm very active in it. I work with a lot of organizations and associations, and I do speaking and training, but I'm doing it because I love this industry. And so the reality is, since this is the industry that I do most of my work in, I do corporate stuff and all of that as well, and education. But since this is the industry I do a lot of the work in, my hope is that this industry say, we're going to say, I'm going to talk about this more in a moment. We're going to take the lead. And we're going to show other industries and other corporations and businesses how to do racial equity right. Okay. So this is where we got to get creative. All right. Because I want to lay a foundation. All right. And some of y'all going to probably want to debate me on this, but I'm going to lay it anyway. Okay. And it's going to be really important for you to open your eyes, because keep in mind, part of the whole racial, thank you, Andy. He said, let's do it. Andy's been around with my stuff long enough to know I dive deep. I get up in here. So yeah. And we're going to do this from a position of scarcity. I love seeing these different responses. There you go, Rudy. I see you. So I want you to see what happens at a scale that we already know when racial equity is embraced. Okay. You ready for this? Here we go. This is what baseball was. All right. Back in the 30s, this was baseball. Most of these dudes had part-time jobs. They were playing baseball during the day and mopping floors at night and doing stuff like that. Sometimes they would have to share vehicles to get to the games. And you had some people like Babe Ruth that made a little money, but he would also sometimes have to pitch in his own money to stay at a hotel. That was baseball. So paid players were paid few dollars, that most had to have jobs. America's pastime did very little for the local economy. It didn't flourish much. They had the games, and it was 100% Caucasian because they had the Negro leagues. All right. So they had their own, they only played, the Negroes played in their leagues. All right. So let's move on. I'm building up to something. All right. And so there was this innovator. And put this in your notes. I need to be an innovator. That's what I am. I need to be an innovator. There was an innovator by the name of Branch Rickey who said, it's time to shake this up a little bit. And keep in mind, when he decided to do this, his life was threatened. His team, his other coaches ostracized, his other general managers ostracized him. The league didn't want him to do it. He was talked about, he was persecuted. Jackie came in one time and talked about how hard it was. And he said to Jackie, you think it's hard? He pulled this drawer open. It was he said, listen, that's all the death threats I got last week. He said, so you think it's hard? See what I'm going through right now. But as a result of his staying the course and seeing this player out of the eyes of equity, and not race. And that's what this story is all about. This is baseball today. Baseball is $1 billion industry. Millions in tax revenue to cities and states. Black and brown athletes contributing to their families and community. And equal opportunity based upon, this is important for our industry, based upon talent, not race. That's an important statement. Based upon talent, not race. See, the owners of these teams ain't got no problem with it. If you're good, we just gonna bring you in. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got no problem with it. Now, they do have some problem when it comes to coaching. That's a whole nother story. We got to work on that. But as far as the players, if you're good, 1 million, 2 million, 100 million, don't matter to me. All right. All right. So let's think about it. So that's what baseball is today. The stadiums are packed. The tax base is high. The cities are making hundreds of millions of dollars off of these teams. Why? Because baseball decided to be equitable. And I think it made a huge difference in its earnings potential. So let's go to another sport. A sport you all love, basketball. Yes, this was the Los Angeles Lakers in 1950. I'll see you, Rudy. Come on, y'all. Look at this team, man. Look at their shorts. This was the Los Angeles Lakers in 1950. Boy, they were good at set shots. And they had about 40, probably about 300 people in the stands watching them. And they would run up and down the court, pass, shoot. Run down the other side, pass, shoot. But they won the championship. That was then. And then basketball said, we're going to become equitable. We're going to let other folks come up in here. And then they have brought my hero, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That's my childhood hero right there. I love me some Kareem. I knew him back when he was Lou Alcindor. And then probably one of the most radical and dominant players of his generation, Wilt Chamberlain. We're going to let these guys come up in here. We're going to let them come in. My man, Bill Russell, I should have put my picture up with him, was one of the first. And I took a picture with him about 10 years ago. We were at this event together. You know, we had a great time. He's a clown too. Had me laughing the whole time. Called my tie ugly. I thought I was just dissed by one of the greatest basketball players that ever lived. And I said, I ain't got no problem with that, Mr. Chamberlain. I mean, Mr. Russell. He said, I don't want to take a picture with you. I said, well, you shouldn't have called my tie ugly. He laughed. We just had a good time. So, but the players were given a chance. That's why in workforce and careers, we got to break this barrier and give people a chance. Because guess what? Now today, whew, come on. Once again, $1 billion industry, millions in tax revenues to cities and states. Black and brown athletes contributing to their families and community, and equal opportunity based upon talent, not race. Now, I know this is a stretch, my friends, and you may be saying, Coach, that's a stretch and a half. It's really not. As Rudy said, and again, you can type in the chat feature if you got some thoughts. Rudy, thank you. It's giving people a chance. Please hear me out. Racial equity is about giving people equal opportunity, giving them a chance. You know, I mean, really, giving them a chance. And when you do, it's amazing sometimes what happens. It's amazing what new doors. And here's the thing that I share with some folks who are more into the economic side of things. These athletes have put billions of dollars into people's pockets that don't look like them. Billions. So people might say LeBron makes 100 million. Yeah, but the owner of the Lakers is worth about 4 billion. So this is what I want you to realize. With racial equity, please type this in somewhere. Somebody type it in the chat feature and help me out. Everybody benefits. Our nation benefits because we look at the talent pool. It's about talent. It's not just about, I want this person. Study Dr. Jennifer Eberhardt's book out of Bias. I think I have a copy of it here. I wish I can grab Bias book, where she talks about the other race effect. And in that book, she highlights how a lot of times it's that people are biased because there's a familiarity with their race and they're used to hiring people based upon that familiarity. And what she's trying to get folks to understand is that we need to start looking at this from a talent perspective, from a potential perspective, not specifically a bias because of what I've always done. And that's what people like Branch Rickey and others did. They said, man, I'm going to think way outside the box and look at potential. That's what my 6th grade teacher, Miss Palmer, did. When I was bussed out to their school, she didn't look at me, this black kid who they didn't have black kids at that school when I went out there. She looked at me that it's a young man with potential. And 35 years later, we reconnected. And it was like, I felt like I just hadn't seen my mom in 30 something years, hugging her and crying like I was a baby and thanking her for what she did for my life when I was 12 years old. You know, she got a chance to meet my children. And my children said, Miss Palmer, my dad always talks about you. And she hugged them. And I said, this woman right here did not see me as a black kid. She saw me as a student. And she saw me as a student with potential. She gave me a chance. All right, let me go on for time's sake. I don't know why I said 45 minutes. It's supposed to be about an hour for this one. All right. My hope is that we have the people nationally who take on the spirit of Richie and others and begin to open doors that need for career and life success, non-athletic. So we want to look at this. We know about the athletic part. Now, non-athletic, those basic jobs, entry-level jobs, managerial jobs, you see, to create opportunities based upon talent, not race. Write that last part down. To create opportunities based upon talent, not race. Somebody called me, once they're looking for someone, and I got somebody for you. Oh, yeah, well, okay. Tell me about them. What they got? They're good at doing this. They're good with their hands. They're talented. They can do this and that. You know what I mean? What's their ethnicity? Doesn't matter. They're good. That's called advocacy. You know what I'm saying? That's called, I want you to see this person based upon who their talent is. If I say their ethnicity, you may make a quick judgment call. Let them come in for an interview and get to meet the person. See, that's talent, looking at talent, not race. And I know companies do it. I know companies always look at, put on what's your ethnicity and things like that. The reality is you got to meet with people to understand what they can bring to the table. And it takes folks who are willing to support. So racial equity and workforce development, we don't work with athletes, but when we help people get their education, GED, and secure employment, we are leveling the personal playing field. I'm here today because of what y'all did. Y'all weren't doing it. Half y'all weren't born, and most of y'all were babies. But I don't think y'all work for no workforce development organizations when you're like one. but the reality is that it was those people back then that leveled the playing field for my family. Mr. Head, who was the workforce development guy that worked with my mom, you see, they leveled the playing field. And I started realizing that education and career is the great liberator. That's what gives you opportunity. And so we understand those two work in the education and workforce. That's why you're a really good partnership when you're working together. To see the potential in Black and brown people and be willing to go to bat for them. Ms. Palmer went to bat for me. You see, I mean, I work with a lot of you here. Can I be honest? Like going down to this whole thing of vendor relations, I'll talk about that. I'm just gonna be honest because this is honesty, okay? There's some people that won't work with me because of the color of my skin. The reason why I say that is because there's people who have told me that they want me to get in there, but there's people in certain positions that don't want me because they don't feel comfortable with an African-American doing this stuff. This is the reality. And I'm not just saying in your space, I'm talking about in corporate. We've seen it in different times, and so what you need is some people to say, you know what, no, we're going to deal with this. We're going to get the right person up in here and we got to figure it out. There was this lady, I was the keynote speaker I'm going to say this. I'm not trying to bash this organization in any way because I love the work that they're doing. But I was their keynote speaker for the national PTA, but they didn't want me to be the keynote speaker. There was one person that said, I'm going to fight. I don't care if I lose my job, you're going to get that keynote. And she said, because you need to hear from this African-American father who loves his children, loves his family. One of my books is entitled The Parent is Coach, Developing a Family Dream Team. We need to hear from him. And this woman literally put her job on the line. I went up there and I did the highest rated keynote that the organization has ever seen. And all those folks that didn't want me came up hugging me, wanting to take autographs. But it was that woman who was willing to lay it on the line. Now she was like a prima donna then, she got all kinds of things. But the point I'm making, I'm being real with y'all. We're talking racial equity. Y'all okay with this? I'm just being real. I'm being real. This is the world we live in. And it took that woman willing to go to bat to open up that door, because there's been situations where people have said, no, we rather work with that other consultant over there or this other organization or their company or whatever, because that's that other race effect. That's what I'm comfortable with. You see? And so it would be powerful. We became internal and external advocates. So like, as we're doing it in workforce, maybe talking to our corporate clients and say, hey, you know what? We're really embracing this racial equity thing. Can we talk to you about what we're doing to see if you may have some interest in the model that we're using, maybe at your organization? When I ran my workforce programs, I was big on partnering with the companies that we work with and sharing some of the best practices that we use, so that when we put people in place, them in employment, it would kind of mirror the efforts. You see what I'm saying? So internal. And then also going back to what I just said, we got to practice what we preach. You know, we also need to look at our hiring practice, vendor relations, and community reconnections. This is important. And I say this to all my customers when we go deep into this process. Are we exhibiting racial equity in these areas ourselves? We got to look at, what are we doing? Like I have a customer out in the West Coast, and they're totally revamping their systems from an HR perspective because of the work we're doing. And they're saying there's no more longer an excuse that we can't hire somebody of color. There's online stuff. We can bring somebody in and have them move to the area. We can do some virtual work. But from this point forward, because you know why, they're now open to it. They've changed the way that they're thinking. And they said, we're going to make some shifts. Vendor relations. When I first started working with them, I said, how many African-American vendors do you have? They said, well, you're the only one. I said, okay. I said, we got to change that. Now they're starting to embrace more. So what I'm saying is that one thing about racial equity that's important is we need to look at it from our perspective. That if you're not there right now, I'm not trying to make anybody feel guilty. I'm just saying that when you try to build these systems, you really want to look at how are we doing internally, because I can't have an expectation of someone if I can't do it myself. So keep that in mind as we go forward here. All right. So why racial equity? And this is a different perspective. One, economic benefits. People who make more money have more resources to contribute. Seriously. And so when we think about that, creating that opportunity, you know what I mean? What it does is now gives that person a different position in life, that they're able to pay more on taxes. They're able to pay more into the community, more to buy things, do more for their kids. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, my cell phone is, I don't know what it's doing. And all that, you know, and then the community benefits. This is really powerful. Okay. When people are allowed to maximize their potential equally, their community changes. That's important. So a lot of times people talk about crime and talk about this. The great liberator there is going to be employment. Getting jobs, being able to support myself, being able to take care of my family, being able to get a decent place to live. All of that, that's a benefit. You know what I'm saying? That's a benefit. And so racial equity, when you see some communities that are, you know, kind of like more, you know, some communities that are primarily African-American, but maybe middle to upper class, and there's a totally different dynamic there because they were given the opportunity. You know what I mean? And now granted, some of them probably had to go for the opportunity and they had to get the education and things like that. But the point I'm making is community and then family benefits. Families that are allowed to maximize their potential create generational impact. I just shared my children with you. You know, my kids think they can take on the world. they don't even know any limits. You know, that's because they've gone through that generational process of where now my wife has a degree in engineering from North Carolina A&T. I have a degree in business administration and marketing from Cheney University, and we both went to HBCUs. You know, now my daughter, a global scholar, she thinks she's in school. She really ain't in school. She's down in Florida, West Palm Beach. She goes to American University, but they're doing virtual classes. She sends me a picture of her doing classes on the beach. I said, girl, you're not in school. That ain't school on the beach. You know, I don't be trying to act like you in school, but no, but everybody's doing virtual stuff now. So she's just enjoying it. She's doing different things, but you know what? She's maximizing her potential. Just made the dean's list at American University. Give my girl a thumbs up. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Just made the dean's list. So there's the benefits. I'm gonna get ready to wrap this up. If some of y'all want to hang around for a few minutes after, I want to do some Q&A. So if you got to go, I get it, but I'm going to just hang around for a few more minutes because so let me give you some tips here. One, workforce development. When we talk about this, you got to build the culture. It won't happen on its own. Are we working on this? Is this a priority? Are we having conversations? That's the next one. I would encourage people, and I always say this with all my customers, and not in non-customers. Some people just call me and say, Coach, I want to strategize, not necessarily my customer, but just want to brainstorm, and I'll give you that opportunity as well, because I can't work with everybody. But the reality is, you can't, when you're talking racial equity, you got to talk to people. Because some people feel like they're threatened because they think you're attacking. I'm not a racist. And they got to help them understand that's not what we're saying. What we're saying is there's a way of communication that you may be used to that you think is okay, but in certain cultures it's not. You don't mean to do it. That's called bias. That's not a bad thing. We all have biases. That's what Dr. Eberhard talks about. And so people say things that I didn't mean it that way. Well, here's the deal. The person received it that way. And unless you understand the impact of your words on another person, you can stand your ground and be right, but you're going to be wrong. Because it's not that the person needs to, you need to understand what that person is saying and meaning. So, but you don't get to that point till you have conversations with people. Because if not, the wall goes up. And then that person don't want to have they don't want to talk to you. So I tell my customers, yeah, impact. I like this. There you go. And impact. That's it. Social benefits. So you guys are typing in some good stuff. All right. Thank you, Rudy. And yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. And so here's the thing I want y'all to get that really understand is that we need to have these conversations, create measurable racial equity goals. What are the goals of our organization and how are we operating? How are we doing this? You know what I mean? How we're measuring our success. How do we know if we're having success? Are we hiring more? Are we getting more, having more people? Are we taking clients that may be a little bit more challenged and being a little bit more patient with them now? We want to see them to conclusion, not halfway through our cases, get halfway through and then what happens? No, we're going to stay with them like Mr. Head stayed with my mom so we can see them get to that next phase. See, these are workforce type things, you know what I mean? That we can look at, all right? And then so with just to let you know, our framework is, as we call the Equity 3M framework, our framework that we work with. And everything I talked to you about today falls under the context of this framework. Mindset, equity conversations, and equity journeys. I tell people we do training, but the reality is the first part of it is conversations. We talking to folk. And we giving people a chance to share their struggles and challenges. Well, I thought this was right, but I tell them, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just trying to tell you that there's a way that, like this one lady, we're working with this one group, and she said, if I walk up to a Black presenter and I say, I really something. I can't remember how she said it, but she talked about the way that this person spoke. And I said, well, he may take that as you trying to say that because I'm Black, I speak that way. You're trying to say Black folk can't speak? It was the way she worded it. And I told her, your intentions were okay. It's how you said it. You know what I mean? And I said, so understanding how you say things sometimes, oh, now I know. And then you can say it differently. So that's just, so the mindset is important. Motivation, once we get to understanding, we analyze the mindset piece and we have things going in place. Why do we want to do this? How are we going to change our community? How are we going to change across the board? How are we going to change the way we see things from a family perspective? And last is memorization. How do we weave this into our organization, business, our home cultures? A lot of people we're working with now, this is radical, and I didn't see this as a beautiful byproduct, is taking the information home and sharing it with their kids. I've had so many parents say, I got a lot of teaching to do because there's been things that I didn't know that I'm now seeing for the first time. I know we're at 3:15, but hang in there with me for a few moments. We started late because some of y'all came in 7 minutes late, so I got another 7 minutes. We're trying to steal my 7 minutes from me, all right? Yeah. MacArthur, bingo, my man. You nailed it. I couldn't think of the words. You nailed it, MacArthur. Good to see you here, man. You're so articulate. That's exactly what it is. You nailed it. That's what she was grappling with. And I said, but that's not going to fly. It's not that you're not being, complimentary. It's how it could be received. And we went back and forth, but once it was explained, then she got it. And she said, oh, okay, coach, now I understand. Now I understand. Thank you, MacArthur. You helped me with that one because I couldn't quite remember what the wording was, but it's the old articulate thing. And then the last one is really important. So my high level desire in the work we're doing, and even the non-work, because it's like I said, I do, this is free. I'm not, I'm just doing these, is that our industry, we are so well positioned to be a leader when it comes to racial equity because we work with the corporations, we work with the school districts, we work with the community. We're right there in the middle of all this. And so my hope is that once people putting their systems in place, you don't keep it to yourself. You take it and lovingly show the people around you and let them say that your organization taught them something that they didn't know, because most people are grappling with this because they don't have enough knowledge. And so when you're working on it and you're working through it, by giving them this knowledge, some of the things maybe we even talked about are the systems that you put in place, then that makes your community, your region, your city, and your state better. It really does. So that's all I have today. That's all I have, y'all. I kept it within my time frame. I took my extra 7 minutes because some of y'all were late. But hey, listen, I'm gonna tell you, a lot of folks on here are my customers. If I had time, I would let some of them talk to you, but I don't want to do that. And plus, I don't want to put them on the spot. But if you want to strategize, reach out to us. Reach out to us, and sometimes it could just be, hey, coach, we're thinking about this. You know what I'm saying? And just want to bounce some ideas off for you. You know what I'm saying? Thank you. I've got these thank you showing them. Now y'all showing me some love. Now I feel loved all of a sudden. I don't know. Yeah. Thank y'all so much. Thank you, Kendra. Man, I'm seeing some names I haven't seen in a while. Deborah, thank you so much. Thank you, Patricia. But if you want to strategize, reach out to us. And I tell people, don't be scared of this. Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you. Appreciate you. We'll be talking to you Thursday. We're going to be with your leadership team. Thank you. Yeah. There you go. Thank you all so much. Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. You guys got me caught up in these thank yous. Thank you, MacArthur, man. We got to connect. I know we've had some conversation. I would love to know how you're doing. So thank you so much. But this is my information. If you know of people that are looking to do this, use this as a resource. It's not just Coach D. It's Daryl Andrews and Associates. We have several consultants now that's out here doing this work with us. You know what I mean? And we got Rachel on here who does a lot around time management and efficiency management, but she does some other things and she's just kind of been helping out Rachel Revel. And so we have a lot of people that's a part. It's not just Coach. Y'all see me a lot, but it's other people that's a part of the team that are, we got Pierre Campbell. Some of you have met Pierre, and Pierre's so busy now, you can't hardly catch up with him because he and I are doing a lot of projects together, but he's like all these organizations got him doing diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's like moving from one place to the next and we're doing projects together. So this is what we do. This is what we love. But it's not just, thank you for that. Thank you, Leslie, for putting my website in there. Thank you so much for doing that. And so, if you want to just brainstorm, reach out to us. And if you go to my website, you'll see there's a section where you can actually set up for a strategy session. You know what I mean? Block off 15, 20 minutes. So I'm going to stop the share. All right. And I still got quite a few of you on. And I'm gonna take executive privilege. All right. And I ask you to unmute. And I just would love to hear what some of you got out of today. And it could be anyone. I don't want to Brady Bunch you and pick somebody. So, you can unmute yourself and say, hey, coach, I would like to share XYZ. And for the rest of you, just type in the chat feature what you got. All right. Maybe something that you walked away with today. So anyone want to share just a few thoughts? It doesn't have to be everybody. But anyone, just chime on in because I unmuted you.
This is Annie.
Hey, Annie.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say that I loved, at EDSI, one of part of our core values is seeing through the eyes of those we serve.
Yeah.
And Coach, you said earlier, see through the eyes of equity, not race.
Yeah.
And I think that's something great that we can take back and hold on to.
Yeah, there it is. And it's something that just has to be worked on because the reason why there's so many perspectives. And when you have a bunch of people working in one organization, you want to pull them together and have a unified perspective. But that's a process. All right, let me hear a few more. Just a few more thoughts. I would love to kind of hear what you're saying. I'm going to let you go in a minute here, but who else would like to share some thoughts? Mr. Kelly, what'd you get out of today?
Well, what I thought was that, a lot of it I knew, having been in this workforce development for a few years.
Yeah.
But it was interesting, I learned something, kind of an off thing is the Branch Rickey brought up Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
And how he did that. That was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But I think, it's just I think the workforce development industry does need to take the lead.
Yes.
I think it's important that they do that. They need to get the corporate folks to buy off on that.
Yep.
And like you were saying, there's people that don't want to work with you because of your race.
Yep.
That's really bad.
It happens. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, but I appreciate that, but it happens. And we're okay with that because, there's a lot of you that do. You know what I mean? There's so many and they offset that. So, and then the ones we work with, I'm telling you, we have great relationships. MacArthur, can you at least come on off of mute and share a few things? Because I know you're full of wisdom. We've had some conversations before. Just love to hear your thoughts. Are you there? I don't know if he's there. I see his picture, but I don't know if he's.
May I speak?
Yes, go right ahead.
I took 3 things away from this.
Mm-hmm.
First thing was giving a chance, the opportunity.
Yeah.
Giving
Yeah.
that first chance based on what you see, which is the potential in someone.
Yeah.
That's the second thing I see, and I relate them. They're interactive.
Yeah.
They're related.
Mm-hmm.
And as you give them that chance, as you see that potential, you work in small groups, which is your industry, in your workforce industry.
Yes.
And then that's internal, and then you take it outside. And I like the fact that we have to start with our families.
Yes.
Before we move forward.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important. That's very important based on how equity is seen. How we portray others and how we see others, our children will see it. So we have to reflect that based on how we give that opportunity and how we see the potential in others.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something, Ms. Hernandez. You just nailed something that's so just of critical importance that we take this home. I'm gonna tell you something. If you want to shift the way, thank you, Jeanette. I appreciate it. And thank you, MacArthur. I see your message here. Thank you so much for your work. So you're right, it does start with each of us. But equity as a whole collectively is going what we go back and teach our kids, because everything is generational. And it's what one generation teaches the next. Now, we know our country well enough that historically we've not done so well with that. But we can reverse some of that. And I think, I'll be honest with you, this generation of young people are they're in tune. This generation is probably the most diverse, accepting of each other generation that I've ever seen. In my 22 years here on the planet. I mean, literally. Sorry, I didn't tell that lie. I wish I was 22. But the reality is that it does. Like one of the groups I work with, they did a study where each person, the leaders, I work with leaders first, they went and they did a study on an influential African-American. And Rudy, we'll come to you in just a moment. All right. And if Rudy's still there, because I know Rudy had something he wanted to share, I believe. And influential African-Americans that weren't famous, like Martin Luther King and all that. And the people went out, there's like 15 people that were the leadership team. And this is what's crazy. They went out, okay, and they did this research and they came back and half of them were in tears. They were like, how come I didn't know about this person? How come we don't know about, you mean this person did what? And I didn't even know. And they said, Coach, we didn't even know there were so many influential, impactful. I said, because it's not taught in schools. And one of the people said, you know what? I never heard about any of this in school. Now, this group I was working with was 100% Caucasian. But what happened was that got them to thinking, man, this is radical to think that way. And it shifted their organization. Now, it's probably one of my most flourishing organizations right now. They are rocking it because that leadership team said, we're going to do, and now the staff, they fill in committees because they now get it. They get it. Rudy, talk to us. What's going on?
Hey, I just appreciate your message so much. And
Mm-hmm.
I so value your perspective that workforce is at the center of this.
Yes.
Because I agree. I 125% agree with you that we have the ability to make change and to lead that change. And the other thing that we talk about here at the Department of Labor here in Colorado is that this equity work is not easy. This is not easy work. But we don't do it because it's easy.
That's right, man.
Because it's worthy.
It's the right thing to do.
Worthy that everyone is heard and everyone's given a chance. And that was the other awesome message that I took from you. Let's give it a chance, man.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Thank you for letting me share.
Oh man, Rudy, I'm telling you something. I appreciate you and always have, man. But I'm gonna say this: what you just said is it, man. It's not that it's easy. It's just we do it anyway. We do it hard. We do it hard. It's time in this country for this to come to it. We gotta deal with this. And that's why a lot of times when we're doing this work, now I do again programs around social equity and things like that. But this is really a time in our country's history that we can really, I don't want to say put it to rest, because you're gonna always have certain people that's gonna think a certain way, but we can make a significant dent. We can make a significant dent. And when we do so, keep in mind what I talked about in my presentation, we all benefit. It's not like it's just the Black and brown folks benefit. You know what I mean? you know, it's collectively the nation benefits. And that's kind of been my core message. You know what I mean? Don't feel like you're losing anything. You're gaining a lot. You're gaining a lot. You're going to see decreases in things that we don't like so much and increases in things we do, you know? And so people will feel comfortable that, man, if I go for promotion, man, if I got the qualifications, that opportunity is going to be available to me. Or if I go for a job, they're going to look at my talent, not necessarily the color of my skin. Once we get to that point, this nation is going to rock. It's going to rock, and we truly will be that great nation that we were once before, that we kind of slipped away from, that we've been hearing about a lot. And so it takes racial equity is really, to me, one of those things that until we get this right, I don't know if we're going to be able to get anything right. I think this is one of the big things that we've got to get right. If not, I think our nation is going to always suffer to some extent. So listen, thank you all so much for your time. I don't want to leave now. I took about 10, 15 extra minutes of your time. You can just, you can just charge me for that. I'll invoice me for your for your extra time. And Rachel will pay it. She's got all kinds of money. So, Rachel is not gonna come off that screen, and she'll get me later though. Yeah. So I'll say this before we go. Ellen says something that's powerful, and I want to conclude with this. God gave us all the talent, whether it is a waitress or a nurse or a brain surgeon. We should appreciate everyone's talent. During this pandemic, who are our heroes? Nurses and doctors, grocery store workers, mechanics. Can I add another one to that equation? Parents. Moms and dads who are home trying to figure out this hybrid model, and kids in this room and kids in that room. And then my boss is saying, I got to go. Come on, man. We got to look at those mothers and fathers. I'm doing a project in Delaware. You know what I mean? A project in Delaware, sorry about that noise here, where we are doing monthly parent motivation. I'm loving this. It's like every month we're getting together, all these parents in all the different counties, and the parents, we're creating this parent motivations, communities of practice. These parents are on fire. And I tell them all, you're essential workers too. Because the work you got to do is something else. So listen, you guys are fantastic. It is now 3:30. Thank you so much for your time. I'm not done. I forgot to mention, I got most of your emails, but I'm going to keep you updated because we're going to be doing a lot around this topic. And so I'll update you and keep you in the loop as far as other things we'll be doing in the future with it. But I love this industry. Let's go take the lead. Let's show the world how to do it. And Rachel just said, thank you to everyone. Thank you for your help, Rachel. I appreciate that. Until next time, thank you all. Bye now. See ya.